Simendinger.
I'm Will Mars.
This is the Wonderstick.
We wanted to make a generative performance instrument that used the positions of our body as main parameters to the music that we're generating. We decided to break it down into 3 distinct components so that we could each really hone in on one thing and focus on that and make it work the way each of us wanted it to. So we've split it up into a melody, a harmony, and a percussion. 3 of us worked on those pretty individually in terms of constructing the patches and how we handle the input that we all get, but the input is all the same across the 3 of them. We have 6 IR distance sensors mounted to the tube.
We have a little separate breadboard in here that
it's beautiful inside.
Yeah.
Accumulates them and has it all connected to the Arduino, which is running everything.
And then each of these hand controllers has a linear softspot, 2 toggle buttons, and then 2 momentaries. And we've implemented them so that the 2 toggles let you switch between 4 states, and the LED shows you which state you're in. I know what the red mode does, and I know what the purple one does.
Exactly.
The purple one's the interesting one.
We spent most of the time working together, but working on our own individual pieces.
For each of us, we map each of the sliders and the toggle buttons to different things. Obviously, what I'm going to do with a melody and slider is going to be different than what you're going to do with percussion. I can control filter frequency, filter resonance, FM amount in one of the oscillators, and volume by toggling with these switches and then playing with this. These 2 buttons, this one will loop the previous measure of notes, and this one will hold every note, so they're kind of like crescendos. The way the notes are generated are based off of the IR sensor and a Markov chain. Based on what note that was previously generated, what's the next note we're going to play. I kind of like encoded like different tendencies, like the major and minor thirds come up a lot, so it kind of makes it more musical, more than just randomly picking a note in a scale. As I get closer to my sensor over here, it would play really fast and a lot, and as I go further, it would be sparser. And so at any point I could just like hold this button and it would start looping something.
My module, I was controlling the harmony. This switch on the left triggers a new chord along with the bass note, and this one to its right turns off all playing notes. Each time a chord is triggered, it untriggers the last one, and you can get complete silence by pressing this one. And the soft pot is altering the LFO rate, LFO amount, the volume of the chords, and the amount of frequency modulation going on. And I have my infrared sensors. One of them is controlling the filter frequency of the chords, and the other is controlling the volume of the bass. Like Ben mentioned, kind of probability table that says, okay, if you're in minor and you're playing a 7 chord, you're probably going to move to a 3 next, or there's a 40% chance. So I have a table that says how likely it is to move from each chord to each other chord, which determines what happens when you press the button. The root and the 5th is always played, the 3rd is almost always played. The 4th and the 2nd, one of them might be played in the same octave or a different octave, and same for the 6th and the 7th.
The tendency for the values, the notes in the percussion, is to move up from bass to sort of more hi-hat, funny claps and click noises. I stumbled across a paper by this computer science fellow at McGill about generating beats based off of a number of pulses in a given number of steps of the sequence. So I've implemented that to generate the beats. And one of my IR sensors changes the number of steps in that sequence. And then one of the functions on the slide for my controller changes the number of pulses in the sequence. So I can manipulate the seed to get a certain number of beats per measure. On the controller, I adjusted dry wet going into a really crazy filter on max, which gives a lot of like really weird, random, resonant noises, which is generating a lot of the cool bass tones that come out. I've got a nice retrig function, which I had in the last one and really enjoyed. It has a lot of playability, so I implemented that again.
And what is the IR sensors doing for you?
Oh, I've got one of them controlling the number of steps in the sequence, and then the other one's controlling the velocity of notes. And the IR sensors are really funny because they'll give you a good reading from sort of here to here. You've got the min value and then the max value, and then from there down into the right in front of them, they decrease again. So if you get your hand right up in front of it, you can just cut off and then jump back to like a smaller velocity. And
What about crosstalk between the IR sensors?
we were expecting to have a lot of trouble with that, and then
Yeah.
we mounted them, and they
There
were
actually
great.
isn't too much. If I'm here, only this one is going to be really receiving any information, and this one is looking off this way.